Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires that we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
I'm like a man who walked into his home to realize all his lamps were stolen. I'm delighted. Actually, that's kind of leads into a funny story because I was traveling about today, and I'll talk a little about it in geeking. And as I was driving down the street, there was a thing in the road, and I looked at it, and it looked like a three-prong plant stand. And I thought, well, that must have fallen off somebody's truck or something, and nobody noticed it. So, I kept driving. Then when I came back the other way about a half hour later, it was still there. And I thought, you know what, screw this. I'm going to pick this sucker up. And I picked it up, and then I noticed it was actually a lamp. So it's like 3 shelves, and it stands probably about 5 feet tall. I threw it in the back of the truck, and then I got home, brought it inside. My daughter and I basically called it decovetizing it, just in case. Plugged it in, and the lamp worked. And I'm like, cool. I mean, it's wobbly as hell, but, it's still kind of nice and ornamental. So my wife and I put it on the porch. So there, I got something for free, which I liked.
There you go.
How about you, Cory? You get anything for free lately?
Not really, no.
Oh, that's too bad. Maybe you got to go drive around the streets more then. Maybe you'll run into something.
I remember when I was in college, the end of the school year, you would go to the dorms to pick up used furniture that people who lived far away didn't want to bother bringing back home, so they would just bring it downstairs and put it near the dumpster. That is how I furnished my apartment.
That happens
when I first moved out.
That happens at the University of Minnesota. I think it'll happen again. I don't know what's going on, if they're still doing virtual class, whatever. But every time a semester ends, that they just put everything out, and everybody. It's kind of like open season. I mean, I was there once, and I wasn't really looking at stuff. I think at the time I was either waiting to help Dana get her stuff out, but there were like tons of mattresses there, and I was like, geez, that's kind of a mean thing to do, leave a mattress. Nope. A truck was driving down the street picking up all these mattresses. I have no idea what they were doing with used mattresses, either recycling them or shredding them for fill or whatever.
Or stacking them up so that they could, jump off a building onto them.
Or maybe they're people, the Princess and the Pea thing, Are you
there
really?
You go.
We just don't know. The point is they were picking them up, and so, yeah, it still happens. So keep your eyes around. Then, of course, we're getting into garage sale season, which is kind of depressing because I work Thursday, Friday, Saturday when most have them. I guess I actually I missed out on a couple things up. I guess one of the stores in town, Nerding Out, they had their Nerding Out Con.
Oh.
And I ran into somebody who had been to the one in Rochester. He wasn't not Rochester, Invergrove Heights, and he said he wasn't impressed. He said there wasn't much going on. They didn't, Nerding Out didn't have their own sale going, and the people that were there, they didn't really have much. So, again, I worked Saturday, so I didn't get to go. And then there was somebody else in town having a garage sale con at, I think it's the guys who used to run Captain Jack's that closed.
That got delayed.
Yeah,
they were going to be at the Eagles Club here in Bloomington.
Yeah.
But they got closed due to COVID, so they're doing it at their warehouse next weekend. And here's the thing,
it'll be last weekend by the time this airs.
Yeah.
Because I think and again, they're doing it Saturday. I don't know if they're doing it Sunday, but.
Yep, they're doing it Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And here's the thing, I have to work at the group home in St. Louis Park that day. I am like less than 10 blocks away from that warehouse. So as soon as I'm done with my shift, I'll just wander on over there. And then I don't work that Saturday night or Sunday night. I could buy a bunch of comics and then just get on my couch and just sit there and read comics, which I haven't been able to do for a few weeks.
Well, you'll have to send me a link because I will wander in on Saturday or Sunday when I'm off, and Maybe I'll pick up. Maybe that's what we'll talk about next week. What'd you pick up at Captain Jack's sale?
Because Captain Jack will get you high tonight.
He will.
On comics.
Matter of fact,
they've kind of changed their name. They're no longer Captain Jack's. They are Most Wanted Comics. And I guess what they do, they buy collections.
That's very common.
And then they've got a warehouse, but they just take that and go to different conventions around the U.S. and then, have big sales in their warehouse every so often. But they also have a thing where if you want to go through what's in the warehouse, you give them a call and they will have an appointment for you. They'll set up an appointment.
Oh,
and
maybe we should do that.
One thing I learned, Joe, you probably don't remember this guy, but he worked at Marvel in the 80s and early 90s, and he was also the man who created the anti-She-Hulk letter campaign in the late 70s. Do you remember Barry Dutter?
I don't.
He was an editor at Marvel, and like all editors at Marvel in the 80s and 90s, he wrote some stuff here and there. He mostly did humor stuff, and I think he even had a comic strip in Marvel Age. But when he was let go during the infamous Marvolution, which then became Marvelcution, as in execution, ended up out in Los Angeles. And what he does now, he doesn't have a shop. He just sells online and at conventions. And basically his job is to, when he sees people selling comics at on Craigslist or any other place that's advertised or on Facebook, he'll call them up and head out there and see what he can get. And he's been able to make a good living at it. But, he talks about how it's really frustrating because you'll hear people say, oh, yeah, I got a lot of 70s stuff. And you go out there and it's, beat up Carlton and Archie and Harvey books.
Kind of like that place we went to in Superior. It's like, oh, all these comics that are in no real order whatsoever.
Yeah. I
did find Most Wanted Comics are on the eBays. Both and on Facebook as well. So if you look them up, I'm going to, after the show's over, I'll go browse through their stuff. So, but I did see them. They had the mega sale event for last weekend.
And if you click on that event, it'll see postponed.
Yeah, it just says content not available right now. So they must, I just send them a note to see if they have it. But yeah, if they have something, it'd be kind of fun to see what you pick up. And then, of course, when I come in the following day, because I remember even when I went in on Sunday, there was hardly anybody there. And I ended up leaving $1 a piece with like $300 worth of stuff. And it's stuff to this day I still haven't gotten to. I talked about a DC series in the 90 Gross Point. I picked up the full run with the intention to read it, but I haven't even done that yet. So, but I did actually get to read some comics. I'll talk about that maybe in Freaking or Geeking.
Well, when we go to these sales like this and we go looking for cheap reads and stuff, I haven't asked this in a while. Joe, do you have any holy grails, any books that you are, anything? It used to be your holy grail was the photo covers, and you've since shifted out of that. Now, for me, my holy grail at first were the EC books. Mm-hmm. And then after I got those, it was, when I started collecting, you talked about how you wanted every Marvel ever.
Yeah, back in the 90s, 70s. And that was just modern Marvel, Fantastic Four up, because while I was kind of aware of Golden Age, I didn't really think that term.
Now, for me, I was going to do from issue 100 up of all the long-running books. Because even when I started, to buy back issues and fill in stuff, I'd look and see, oh man, Fantastic Four #1, $1,800. That's just crazy. So I decided issue 100 up, because for stuff like the Avengers and Captain America and Iron Man and Thor, well, Thor not as much, but Spider-Man, they had reprint series that really reprinted up through all of the stuff from the 60s. And issue 100 for most of the other books was kind of when they transitioned to the 70s. But then I kind of, yeah, they're putting out the Masterworks, and they're putting out the Essentials and stuff. But I don't really have any holy grails at this point. However, every so often I'll get kind of a bug where I go, I want to read all of this mess. And currently my thing where I want to read all of this mess is the DC annuals from 97, which were the Pulp annuals. Pulp Heroes, where they took all the books that were being done and reimagined them as Pulp magazine heroes. Although not everybody did a lot of reimagining, like Peter David didn't. His was, it had some trappings of it, but mostly it was just a Aquaman story. Let's see. Devin Grayson's Catwoman leaned into it a bit. Robin, the Batman stuff. But they really, I wanted to pick it up because I thought it would be fun. I remember reading them, and they're filed away in boxes in a storage area, and they don't cost much. You're going to find them all in quarter bins. So I thought, this would be a fun little run to pick up and read. Kind of like a while back when I picked up the Armageddon 2001, which, when it was printed, was set way in the future, 10 years in the future. And now it's 20 years in the past. And nobody should be doing science fiction stories set like 10 years in the future where they imagine all sorts of things change, because one thing I've learned is very little changes.
Yeah. I don't know if I have Holy Grails anymore. Lately I've been picking up signed books just by collectors or creators that I like. Sometimes I got to stop and think, like I ran across a Sandman 50 that was signed by P. Craig Russell and Neil Gaiman, and then I'm thinking, well, I don't have P. Craig Russell, but I do have Neil Gaiman. I have that cool sketch that he did. Sometimes it's like I picked up for really cheap, considering it was a Superman that was signed by both Dan Jurgens and Kurt Swan, and it was like $20, which was like ungodly cheap considering. Usually I get depressed. Like right now, I'm just looking at, I'm in Most Wanted Comics, and they have a copy of Marvel Premiere number 50, the Alice Cooper issue, for $50. Knowing that once upon a time, I paid 40 cents for that damn thing, and I don't have it anymore. I tell you, I probably shouldn't have sold anything. But, of course, when do you stop and bail, ROM number 1, $40. Oh, good grief. I don't know. And even think of X Factor 24, first full appearance of Archangel when Apocalypse changed him, $35. Peter Parker, Spectacular Spider-Man, well, very fine for $35. See, that seems ridiculously cheap. But again, that's a very fine. So sometimes I get depressed just by looking at like high grade copies of stuff, because that's where people are going insane. You tag something for 9, it becomes 9.8, and now you get to charge over $30 or 30-40% of what it normally would be if it wasn't slabbed. Like I said, my dentist buys things, or was buying things like that before. I don't know what he's doing because he retired, but him and his son were always going to they're trying to find things before they went up, and before he did whatever work he needed, he would say, "What do you think?" And while his son, who used to shop at Hot Comics when I owned it, knows his comics, I think the dentist was more looking for like, well, we should go look for Strange Tales 170, First Gamora. And he'd say, yeah, I just want my son to be impressed that I know some of this stuff. So, and I think of that too. I think maybe go out and find the best copy. One of my old subscribers, the guy who runs Minnesota Comic Squad, keeps posting, like, he just picked up a run of Transformers. I sold a run of Transformers. He was telling me about Transformer toys he picked up at Hot Comics, and it got me thinking, back in the college days, and college days for me was like 83 to 87, me and my buds, that was our thing. We picked up and bought Transformer toys, trying to get the first Optimus Prime all the way. And I think we stopped at Fort Max, which I think my buddy ordered for $50 through Sears catalog. And mainly because they were so cool. I mean, they're just ingenious. I mean, the thing looked like a truck, and then you transform it, it looked like a robot. It wasn't plasticky, a lot of shiny parts, really intricate. And we had them all. And eventually I think one guy ended up with them all because he traded the other guy for a car, and then they all brought him to the Hot Comics when I took over. And we ended up selling a ton of them. And the one guy, Jamie, I'll give a shout out to, I don't know if he listens to the show or not, but he said he picked up a Rodimus Prime figure. And I was like, dude, that was probably my personal Rodimus Prime figure, because that was one of the few figures I remember buying. So it was just kind of neat, some serendipity like that. I mean, I get that every so often, like when I see a old Hot Comics sticker from when I owned the store on a book or something. As far as, just digging through stuff, I mean, I'm looking seriously, for $1 a piece, I'm looking for things I can flip. I'm looking for complete runs like that Gross Point. A lot of times I'll get on my phone and I'll be like, okay, 1 through 26. There's 1 through 26. Boom, put it in my box and I'll read it. Sometimes I just pick up because, like, the strip Dork Tower?
Yes.
It was basically a strip based on a bunch of guys dorking around either on comics or games. Gilly, the perky goth, was in it, and one guy had a crush on her and never, I don't know if he ever did, do anything about it. But the last time I was there, here was a bunch of them for $1 a piece. I said, well, $1 a piece. I picked as many as I could. And because I remember he was like, well, you're at about $270. I said, really? Screw that. And I went and I just grabbed the whole box. And I think it ended up going like $310. He goes, I'll just charge you $300 because, I was buying so much. And I, even today, we'll talk about it when we get to geeking. I took a run, like I said, every week I'm going to try to visit a different comic store. I ran by the Source and picked up some stuff, some things we've talked about in the past. And one thing I'll talk about, I'm going to save it for geeking, but it's just I happen to have a single variant cover in my collection, and I read it, and I was thinking, holy cow, this is good. Now I'm like, I got to read the rest of it. But, it's expensive on eBay and it's expensive in the store. And I'm like, whatever. I picked up some of it at the Source. There was one thing I did read. And Cory, are you current on King in Black?
No, I'm not.
I'm
reading it, but I am not current.
Can I spoil something, or should I just
Sure.
keep it mouth shut? Okay.
Sure.
They did something at the end of issue 4. And I guess this is a spoiler warning for all of you, so that you guys don't, again, if you haven't read King in Black 4, but they were talking, the big thing is at the end of King in Black 3, which have you read, Cory?
I think I've only read 2, 1 and 2.
Okay.
And
So you can just put your fingers in your ears and hum. But at the end of 3, the Silver Surfer was coming. So everybody's thinking, oh, that's the big thing that everybody wants. No, it wasn't, because there's a reaction, an opposite. No, he's the god of the abyss, but he is not the darkness. The dark existed long before him. And with the darkness, there is light. It rose against him. It bonded itself to warriors to rage against him. The light was sentient, alive. It gave this army unimaginable power, but it wasn't enough. The light, it was young then, overwhelmed by the darkness, stretched too thin. So as they're trying to call the light, and they did, and they realized, oh my God, it's a symbiote. It's his opposite, a god of light. And it's coming. And of course, the one who woke it up was the Silver Surfer, much to Null's dismay. But then they did something at the very end, which is why, okay, I'm pretty cool to King in Black. Not cool as in, hey, this is cool, but cool as in like, whatever, it's a crossover. I don't read Venom, I don't whatever. But as they were waking it up, Mr. Fantastic says, I know what this is. And Doctor Strange is like, we all do. We've just been calling it by the wrong name. Captain Universe. Finally, the Enigma Force solved. And,
okay, cool.
Yeah, it gets into the body of somebody who you could probably figure out who. And I'm like, that is incredibly cool. You're pulling something that appeared in Micronauts #1 as a toy and has been floating around the Marvel Universe, not quite there.
Well, and Captain Universe was also, it was before Micronauts, I think. No, that was a Bill Manilow thing from Sword in the Star, which was one of the black and white stories he did.
Because the first time I recall Captain Universe was when the One Boys, Micronauts 8. That was his Captain Universe's first appearance. Because that was when the Force, the dad fell into the Prometheus pit, and he was kind of floating around, and then the Enigma Force went inside him and allowed him to come back into our Earth and fight Baron Karza. So if you got Micronauts 8, that's actually the first Captain Universe. The Enigma Force was actually in Micronauts 1. So that's according to Marvel fandom. Let me just double check to make sure. Yeah, thank you. Put a big beer ad in the middle of and a Paramount ad in the middle. I hate pop-up ads. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, first appearance, Micronaut 8, August 1979.
Okay.
Unless you're
I remember it had something to do with the Sword and the Star at Marvel.
Maybe they retro-conned to it.
Yeah, because later on it showed up, but where was that story?
What was that? Sword and the what?
Sword and the Star. And I'm looking, and they don't. The Marvel website I'm looking at doesn't have anything about the black and white stuff that they did. So
yeah.
I need to look at
origins are unclear. The legends may be it's a future incarnation of Excalibur. That the star was embedded was ultimate form of Galactus. Excuse me while I close a fucking pop-up ad. Let's see. They're saying Marvel Preview #4, which is 1976.
There you go.
So if they're tied together, and they're not saying that it is.
They are, because later on in the Micronauts, it showed that they were connected. But I don't remember exactly how.
Micronauts 31.
Yeah.
They said the sword of which appeared to be sentient created the microverse for them.
There you go.
Prehistoric Earth was not the home. So those of you, if you're in the know, Marvel Preview 4, first appearance, it's all tied together.
Not only that, that is also the first appearance of Star-Lord.
Yeah? Well, okay, now it's already too late if that's his first appearance.
But the character connected with the Sword and the Star is Prince Wayfinder.
I love this stuff. This is the type of geeky stuff that I love. Let's see what it's saying.
Excuse me. At the end, Wayfinder was a member of the Ithacons, a race that had prospered while other races had become barbaric conquerors. One such race was the Harmons. The two factions would engage in an ongoing war for years before the prolonged combat was brought to an end when Prince Wayfinder obtained the legendary Sword in the Star.
So I'm reading about the sword itself. There it is.
The sword offered them a new... here you go. Prince Wayfinder used the Sword in the Star to take them 65 million years into the past to settle Earth in prehistory. They found out they did not belong there either. A people out of time, this paradoxical civilization of the future and past, the sword offered them a new universe accessed by energies released when shrinking beyond the subatomic level. This action created the microverse, fulfilling the last part of its destiny. The Sword in the Star brought the Wanderers into the Micronaut, microverse and bound its energy there. Known only as the Enigma Force, it is the foundation of the microverse. I knew it. I remembered that.
Yep. Excellent. Cory I'll give you a dime just for that. So
I knew it was there. I just didn't remember the exact the connection. But I remember back in the Micronauts when Captain Universe showed up, Mantelo would talk about, this is connected to the Sword and the Star, Marvel Previews number 4. And I couldn't find Marvel Previews number 4 anywhere because Black and White magazine.
See, I'm going to pop on eBay and look that up. Marvel Premiere or Preview?
Preview. Premiere was the comic which had Doctor Strange and then Iron Fist and then a bunch of one-shots in it.
All right, let me fire up the old Google machine here.
Preview was the Black and White magazine, which had a bunch of different stories. Let's see, the second issue is The Punisher. Third issue is Blade the Vampire Slayer. God, they had a special Satana issue. I remember reading that one going, this is really pretty and doesn't make any goddamn sense at all.
Okay, let's see. Go to lowest price. So let's see. Lowest price. Well, some guys got one beat up for, well, it's not really that beat up. $7.85.
Woo, a bargain at half the price.
I might pick that one up. The high end is $3,999. Slabbed copy. Let's take a closer look at this one here. Marvel Premiere. Yeah, it's pretty beat up, but you can still read it, So, Star-Lord, yeah. That's cool. I love the way they interconnect that stuff. More importantly, it's not retroactive continuity. So it's not like, well, everything you knew was wrong. No, this is just, they're putting together some things that are kind of fun. Kind of like when
Marvel did back in the 70s, though. It would be, we saw the original Human Torch get destroyed by Quasimodo. Well, why can't his body be what they used to make the Vision? Oh, okay, cool. Or, the Zodiac. Why can't the leader of the Zodiac end up being Nick Fury's brother? They would just throw that stuff in there. And part of it was, they wanted things to be interconnected. And part of it was because they really wanted to have that feeling where the fans could get those Easter eggs and go, oh, wow.
Yeah. And that's what I love about King in Black. To me, that's an Easter egg that I got, and I didn't know about what you had just told me, the Marvel Preview. Oh, by the way, I regret the error. The Marvel Preview listing I quoted before was for number 11.
Oh.
I don't know why it came up under number 4. But you can find a number 4 in pretty nice shape for about $40. So it's up there. It's not. Or go for the 9.8 for $4,000. But the nice thing about the other one is you can at least read it.
Yeah.
So. No, I love that stuff. Like when I discovered reading Marvel 2-in-1 that Roxxon Oil was messing around there, and I'm like, holy crap, they're messing around in Iron Man. And it's like I wanted to scream to somebody. Thank God there was no Facebook there. I'd be like, and people be like, yeah, we know that. Calm down. They've been messing around for quite some time. They're the evil oil company.
Yeah, they were used in Captain America as well, and in the Avengers. Because Steve Englehart wanted to have an evil oil company.
Yeah, gotta have an evil oil company.
Yeah, Joe, you're always asking if you can borrow money from me to buy cool stuff.
Only certain things.
Can I borrow about $1.5 million from you?
Hang on a second. 1, 2, 3. I'm sorry, I'm about 1.2 million short. Sorry.
Heritage Auctions will auction off Action Comics #1, Ashcan.
Oh, geez.
1937.
There's what, like 2 of those in existence?
9.2 cream to off-white pages in their April 1 through 4 auction. The Action Comic Ashcans are possibly the most important Ashcans ever produced because they prevented competing publishers from stealing the title for what would become DC's flagship comic book. They were created by DC publisher Harry Donenfeld in 1937 with 4 different names: Action Comics, Action Funnies, Double Action Comics, and Triple Action Comics. He had yet to pick a lead feature for the book, and he wanted all the possibilities protected. There are 3 copies of both the Action Comics #1 and Action Funnies ashcans that exist. Only 1 copy of Double Action and no copy of Triple Action have ever been found. Of the 3 copies that exist of Action Comics #1 Ashcraft, 1 is locked away in a DC vault.
Interesting.
Another CGC copy sold for $50,000 in 2010. And this CGC 9.2 copy has never been offered for public sale. This copy of Action Comics #1 Ashcan is the highest graded copy in existence. It was acquired directly from retired DC Comics president Sol Harrison in 1986 by Chicago comic book dealer Gary, I will probably mispronounce that, Colombueno. Now, have you, I don't know if he has ever exhibited at the local convention, but he's a huge dealer of really rare stuff. He does Chicago Comic Con and New York and San Diego, and he's the guy who, you'll go there and you'll see a Captain America #1 up on his wall, things like that. The cover art, he exhibited this ashcan at the Wizard World Chicago in 2011, has not been seen publicly since.
Really?
The interior features 8 previously printed pages from Detective Comics #1. The ashcan is documented in Overstreet, but no value has been assigned. It is going up for auction. And let's see, what is the Heritage Auction of Marvel Comics #1, which was one of Gary's other books, sold for $1.05 million in November 21st of 2019, a record for the issue. I imagine this ashcan will probably go for even more because of the unbelievable rarity.
Can you imagine the people already salivating out there trying to plan? Oh yeah, this is gonna be mine. Can you like tag that? I'd love to know what that's gonna come up to when it finally does sell.
Sure. I read all this stuff over on ICB2, which is Internal Correspondent Volume2.com. One big change they have done recently is they now list only the top 20 selling comics.
Oh, interesting.
And they don't give any sales numbers anymore. Because the way they would do it in the past is they would kind of, Batman was kind of what they based everything on. So somehow they were able to get the sales of Batman, and then they would extrapolate. Well, now DC's over at a different distributor, so the figures that Diamond give don't extrapolate over into DC. However, we do get the figures of point of sale, because everybody who uses point of sale, that all gets sent into Diamond, and Diamond has that, but you got to pay.
You got to pay, see?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to pay.
I remember when they started doing that sales chart, they would have Batman, Batman, no matter what was above it or below it, Batman would be 100, to kind of give a guide where, okay, if you ordered 100 copies of Batman, if you ordered the Avengers, it would be like 76.2 copies. Or, Spawn would be 120. So you could kind of gauge, well, I only sell 50 issues of Batman, so I should probably order, half of what these numbers are. And that was how the tool was used at first. then it kind of became where everybody looked at it as, these are the numbers from God. Well, now we don't get them anymore. And I've noticed a lot of the people saying comics are dying. They don't have any numbers to back them up anymore, so you're not hearing anything. And the only sales stories that I read are how comic sales are either up or down from last year. And through bookstores, comic sales last year were up 30%, and they're up again this year. So, but that's what I go over to ICV2 for. They're kind of, and the Beat are really the only kind of news sources.
Well, I have to
ask. Is very much sales oriented.
I have to ask as we cruise around. Have you heard of Z2 Comics?
No.
I ran across this the other day, and it was one of those Facebook ads. Z2 Comics, the z2comics.com. They sell graphic novels by, well, here, this was got me. There was a Blondie graphic novel that they're soliciting. And what they do is they have different editions. Like there's a deluxe edition that's $100, a standard which has all sorts of cool things with it. It's like the standard edition softcover is $24. Basically tells the story of Blondie the band. Amanda Connor, Paul Mounts are doing the graphic novel, so it's got some names. There's a standard edition hardcover that runs $40, and then the aforementioned deluxe hardcover for $100 is an oversized hardcover edition with a limited edition silver ink cover, slipcase cover designed by Jason Stuntkid. I can't pronounce it. Comes with an exclusive 12-inch Blondie vinyl and 3 exclusive Blondie song-inspired prints. Now, Cory, I know that's not good enough for you. You want the super deluxe edition, which you can have for a mere $499.99. By the way, I'm going to see if I can borrow that from you later. Or you can pre-qualify with a firm for $46 a month. That comes with not only the oversized deluxe hardcover edition, the slipcase I mentioned earlier, a very special Blondie music bundle to be announced, a set of 10 exclusive Blondie song-inspired outprints, a set of 10 exclusive Blondie song-inspired postcards, and they will be inspired by classic Blondie songs like Ex-Offender, Fade Away and Radiate, Hang on the Telephone. Oh, by the way, the Blondie music elements will be shipped later. Now, it's not that you could choose just Blondie, but you could choose Anthrax, Beethoven, Cypress Hill, Dio, The Doors, Elvis Presley, Grateful Dead. They have a whole list of different things like this. I was kind of amazed that, apparently Z2 is like, their thing is like where music and comics collide. And so they get together with musicians and tell their stories through graphic novels, from Grails to Youngblood, to Poppy to the Grateful Dead and beyond, which I thought was kind of interesting. I don't see any band there I'm personally interested in. Like I said, the Blondie got my interest in there. And of course, when I clicked on it, I'm like, oh. Now, if it was autographed by Blondie, oh man, I probably would have. Cory, I'm a bad boy. I just thought that was
an Elvis graphic novel they're doing, I see.
Yeah. And I didn't even look at that. Do they have a deluxe edition on that thing?
Oh yeah.
Let's see what it is. Elvis, baby.
That's what it is. It's
very sensitive. Let's see. Official Elvis graphic novel. Oh my gosh. How could they possibly deluxe that thing? Super limited edition of 500 with everything on it, plus a limited edition, how you say that, Glycine art print signed by the creative team. Oh, how much do they want for that sucker? $299. Hey, Cory, you got $299.
That's a bargain.
It is. So I thought this was kind of a neat idea. Again, I hasn't seen a band that I necessarily want to sign with or, drop money on. But I thought of that because earlier today, I did a kickstart for Butts in the Seat, the Tony Schiavone story.
Tony Schiavone book.
Yep, which Tony Schiavone is a legendary wrestling color announcer. I had thought they solicited for this already. Maybe they didn't, or maybe they did, and I'm going to get it. But I went in and through Facebook, and this one's great because you still, by the time you listen to this podcast, you'll still have, let's see, do the math. You'll still have about a week and a half to go for it if you're so inclined. Because Cory and I, we like wrestling, we like comics. Take my money. It's funded way beyond what they thought. But I went in because he has an exclusive deluxe hardcover. He also selling the soft cover, which sounds like it'll probably be available through Source Point Press later on. I did not see any autographed editions, which I was kind of depressed about because I had paid a little extra to get him to autograph it. But they also did something that I thought was neat. And if you're going to do a Kickstarter, if I was a retailer, I would be most upset that I can't get this. But he did for the retailers where you could get 4 of the exclusive hardcovers at a decent enough price to sell them, which I thought was really cool. They did a talk time with Tony where you had a 15-minute phone call with him. They were sold out by the time I found it. Or a hey, look, that's me, where you can actually be put in the book at one of the crowd scenes probably. But it just struck me, for all the doom and gloom we've been, oh my God, comics are dying. I think a lot of people are just foregoing Diamond Comics and comic shops and just doing a Kickstarter. I mean, we've seen Dreadstar, we've seen Coffin Comics with Lady Death. They sell their stuff through Diamond long after it's been Kickstarter. I mean, their Kickstarters raise millions. It just seems like this is a new way to go, especially if you can get a fan base that's willing to come back Kickstarter after Kickstarter and buy the products. So I wonder, Cory, are there any Kickstarters that you follow, or are there any that you this is the only way you buy their stuff, or do you just kind of like I find this stuff haphazardly?
There are some people I follow. Brandon Bitros, who does James versus the New World Order. He doesn't get enough interest to sell through Diamond, so he does everything through Kickstarter. And then Carl Kessel doing his stuff with Kickstarter. Currently, he's doing Impossible Jones, but he also did the what was that? What was the book he did with Gorilla that he finally finished through Kickstarter? Carl Kessel.
I don't remember.
I'll know it in a minute here.
Yeah.
Because I love Carl Kessel stuff. Section Zero.
Oh, yeah.
So, and then the Section Zero, after it was done through Kickstarter, they did a mini series and then a soft cover through Image. Impossible Jones has yet to show up with Image. And I imagine it will at some point because he's got a good working relationship with them. But a lot of stuff, there were too many times when I've ordered something with Kickstarter and then it ends. And then you get excuse after 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 excuse. There was one comic that showed up actually 4 years after I paid for it. And it was half the size it was originally solicited as. The guy was basically sorry, work got in the way, etc., etc. There are some people, Mike Barron. When I interviewed him, he was doing a Kickstarter for the Badger novel. He had it done. He just needed the money in order to print and everything. And I just got it last week. So I think a lot of it has to do with if you are professional going into it. Because there are a lot of people who are comic professionals who have gone to Kickstarter because they don't have the funds to print this stuff themselves. If they do a Kickstarter, they could get the funds to afford to live to get it done, and then send it out to the Kickstarter people, and then solicit it through Image that way. Or what is it? Devil's Due. All of their collected editions they do from Kickstarter. That way they don't have to basically worry about Diamond. And the other thing about Devil's Due is they sell a lot of their collected editions, hardcovers, omnibuses at conventions. If they set up at a convention, they're going to have a table full of these and they're going to sell. So the Kickstarter funds the printing for that they then make up selling the books at conventions, so that the Diamond sales, they don't have to live and die by the Diamond sales. One other thing with Diamond, I've been following this. I don't know if you have or not, but more and more smaller publishers are signing with different distribution networks to get into bookstores. Just recently, Ahoy Comics signed with Simon & Schuster. So Simon & Schuster is distributing them to bookstores and to Amazon. DC has signed up through Penguin, which is weird that they wouldn't go through Warner Books, but I don't know. But I don't know if it's because Diamond just isn't set up for returns and places like Simon & Schuster are, or if getting in that Simon & Schuster catalog, getting in that Penguin catalog means you've got a little more cachet, rather than you're in Diamond's catalog where, yeah, you've got all the Marvel books, but you've also got, the PS Art books, which, nothing bad about the PS Art books, but your major book chains are going to look at that and go, I'm not paying $60 to reprint 4 old comics from the 50s. Nobody's going to buy that.
Not without return privileges.
That's why if you're in kind of a bigger prestige catalog, you're going to stand out a little more. They've also got, Diamond doesn't have a lot of people whose job it is to do publicity. Simon & Schuster has an entire department for publicity. Penguin Books has an entire department for publicity. You're seeing a very slow evolution to the bookstore market, where the comic market is moving back to what it was in the 80s, where it's, yeah, this is great, we're glad to have it, but we're going to become book publishers. And we've said it for years, we've said it since this podcast started, if you are a comic shop, you need to be more than just a comic shop. Because right now, anything that's printed, I can get day and date from Amazon. Anything. That's not even counting all of the different online retailers. You've got to offer something to get people to come in your shop, and you can't rely on the Wednesday Warriors. You've got to have stuff that pulls in other people. The Source would not be able to have the huge graphic novel selection they have without the huge gaming inventory, because that inventory they have, I've gone there and they've got books that have been sitting on that shelf for 10 years. That means they've had to pay taxes on that book for 10 years. And it's money that's sitting there that they've invested and they haven't made anything off it yet.
Although you got to admit, they probably blew a lot of that out 2 years ago when they were doing $1 a book.
Yeah.
So they actually, and this is where stores like the Source will survive. They've computerized everything.
Yes.
Everything now is computerized. So, and I'll talk about it when we get to geeking, because that's one of the big stops is in the back of the store. They have all this merchandise that has been clearanced out and taken out of their system because they've obviously been watching it. And when they get to a point where like, hey, this hasn't sold. Let's get rid of it and put something in its place that does sell. And they still have the ability, if you don't have something that's there, or they don't have something that's there, you can go, hey, would you order me this if it's available? And they most certainly will do that. So yeah, they've sharpened it up. They got rid of all this dead weight, and you can avoid that. I don't know where I would be had I kept Hot Comics going with the graphic novels. I can imagine they would have increased, but would I have kept the dead weight there, and this is part of what probably drives things on eBay. Occasionally I'll go to the source or anywhere, Hot Comics or whatever, and I'll look and I'll see, okay, I bought this book for $5. Holy crap, it's going for $45 on the eBays because it's out of print. Nobody has it. Nobody can get it. We're not talking the weird omnibus phenomena. That's almost something totally different. But what was the one? Oh, the Mad Bomber Saga. Captain America Mad Bomber Saga is like an insanely expensive book in the secondary market, totally out of print in the newsstand. Although you can find it online if you want. You can go to Marvel Unlimited and read it. It baffles me why stores like that. Well, I guess it doesn't really baffle me because when you're trying to get rid of dead weight, you're not thinking, oh, maybe I should spend the time to see if I can blow it out on eBay. Because 9 times out of 10, it doesn't have a value. But at 10th time, it may be worthwhile putting it on eBay just to try to sell it. If you have the time to do it. I mean, it takes a lot of time to eBay versus just slapping a clearance sticker on it and throw it in the back of the store and hope somebody takes it. But that's okay. That's what keeps my eBay going. It's okay. Don't worry. I'll be there. I don't even feel bad about it. I figure I gave you what you asked for it. Who cares if it's worth $135?
You know who also doesn't feel bad about helping you out, Joe?
Who's that?
These guys, our sponsors.
Believe it or not, kids, this here podcast has sponsors. And that sponsor, since day one, is DreamHost.com. DreamHost.com is the best, bar none, web host in the whole known universe. And if you need a website, head on over to DreamHost.com, put in code KRAYZ, that's KRAYZ, and get $20 off your first year. Now, if you would like to advertise here on any of the Solitaire Rose Network podcasts, you can. Just email me at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com, subject advertising. Also, head on over to eBay and look for user KRAYZ, K-R-A-Y-Z. That's Joe Crazy Writer, who's always telling us about the eBay in every episode of Crazy Comics and Stories. If you would like to contact us, you can do so. You can give us a call at 952-856-0519. Leave a message and we'll play it on the show. Or you can send us an email at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks.
And if you think this is the only podcast I do, oh, heavens no.
You got some nerve, fella.
I keep busy with all of these.
The Solitaire Rose Radio Network is currently on a pause, basically because COVID-19 has made it so that I have to work a lot of extra hours at both jobs. But you can still go and listen to my other podcasts. Now, you're probably listening to Crazy Comics and Stories, which is the main podcast. But on this same feed, KRAYZ, COMIX, is Solitaire Rose Radio, the solo radio podcasts that I do. I've done interviews, I've done short stories, I've done all sorts of things, and you can get to it right here on this same feed. I also do a podcast called Novelcast, where I take the novels I've written and turn them into free audiobooks. That's over at novels.solitairerose.com. Dangerous Dan Moore and I, and of course Wolfie B. Bad, give you bad advice over at badadvice.solitairerose.com. You send in your questions, and we give you the aforementioned bad advice. And then myself and Adam Vermillion from For the Love of Comics do the Fantastic Forecast at fantasticforecast.solitairerose.com, where we go through the issues of the Fantastic Four 4 issues at a time to give the plot and commentary on each issue. That's not all. Yes, I'm crazy. I still, over at pwinsiderelite.com, every week on Wednesday, do a recap of the latest episode of AEW Dynamite. I write up what happened, and then myself and Anthony Pyrus will do an audio. Now, you can only listen to the audio if you're a member at pwinsiderelite.com, and if you're a wrestling fan, you should be, where we then break down the episode, talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, give it a grade, and let you know if you should have watched that episode. Those are the other podcasts here at the Solitaire Rose Radio Network. Thanks.
And now we get to Joe's favorite part of the show. No, not where he plays Simpsons Tapped Out while drinking Fireball Hooch.
But I don't do that anymore. I end up finding like 100 donuts. Seemed like a good idea at the time.
No, it's Joe. What's going on the eBays?
All sorts of stuff. I have basically spent all weekend, and I've got quite possibly a long box. No, probably at least a decent short box full of variant covers up on the eBays, including a couple surprise things where it's like you're going through and it's like, well, back when I was doing my what did I call it? The purge, the blowout.
Yes, the purge.
Yeah. Where I did this book that didn't sell, and now it's like, holy crap, that thing's worth $60, and I was trying to sell it for $1 4 years ago. Foolish mortal. But I've been selling a lot of things too. Some things are things that even I'm not sure the origin of. For example, I had up 3 Witchblade figures, which these were figures that were popular in the golden age of figures, which I call the 1990s, because that's when I had the comic shop, and everybody and their uncle had figures. But these were Top Cow Witchblade figures sculpted by Clayburn Moore. It was the medieval Witchblade, Nottingham from Witchblade, and then, of course, the medieval Witchblade, the rare red variant. And somehow, Clayton autographed these to me. And I don't recall meeting him. I don't know if I got these because I ordered a lot of stuff through Diamond, or maybe it was one of these deals. This was long before eBay started, so it wasn't like I bought them on eBay. But they autographed them right to me. Well, some lucky person out there decided to buy them from me, because as I'm slowly selling off parts of my collection, as cool as these figures are, they just didn't meet the cut. So I was kind of happy to sell them, and I hope the person that gets them is happy. Cory, you never collected Animaniacs when it came out, did you?
No, I did not.
Oh, you should have. You know how much number 51 is going for? It guides at $195.
And why is that?
Because nobody was collecting it. About 48, 49, and the series only went to 59. I think retailers stopped buying it. Animaniacs might have been off the air. I'd have to look to see when it was going. But the prices jumped from like $4 to a lot higher. And even other ones like issue 42 had a Love Boat parody. They're saying, $20 near mint. I can't find them for less than $65. I don't have many of them. Most of mine I sold or I kept because it's got like a wrestling theme. The one I had, because I had a flag thing going, Animaniacs number 23, which had Hello Nurse. And I had it for a mere $17. I probably should have double checked it and repriced it, but I don't do that stuff. I put it up on eBay and sell it. I'm just trying to look here. Yeah, issue 1's like $20. The later issues, some of them $74, $75. And again, this is just looking at prices without checking. There may be people selling them for less. But does the Strode know? I think we've talked about this before. Life with Archie, number 42 in 1965, was the first appearance of who?
That would be Sabrina the Teenage Witch, I believe.
No, she was in, I should know this, but she was in a different one. No, this was Pure Heart the Powerful.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I found a copy cheap, read it, It was okay, I guess. I thought it was timely because I guess we just they resolicited for bringing the heroes back or actually in this previews. But I sold that as well as a I can't think of his name. Dilton. In 1989, he had his own book, Dilton's Strange Science, where he was in the loving embrace of a rather good-looking redhead. Redheads, I'm telling you. Let's see what other goodies I sold. I read it. It was fine. I got rid of it. Death of Wolverine, the Logan Legacy. And I know we talked about this a while back. It was fun just because they went through and they got all the different people that had Logan, including the weird android that popped up for a while in one of the issues. And this was the Logan Legacy. They were just going through because somebody was hunting down Logan, trying to figure out where the real Logan was. Meanwhile, he's bopping around with a cosmic cube. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Somebody's got it. They'll enjoy it, I hope. Cory, did you ever read Tug and Buster when it came out?
Yes.
Yep.
Big fan of Mark Hempel.
Oh, yeah. Tug and Buster was phenomenal. It's a lusty, zesty, four-fisted He-Man misadventure. Tug and Buster chronicles the adventures of a pair of misbegotten losers, one big quiet lump, the other a gibbering idiot. Most of the humor comes from not from situations, but from Buster's incessant chatter, full of sexual innuendo and scatological humor. There were 6 issues. I never, or did it, was there 7? I forget. I had a run. No, I had all 7. I had 7-ish. I'm sorry. I had all 7 issues plus the one shot that Image did. And since I had it all in book form, I figured, you know what? Time to sell it off. So somebody, I hope they enjoy it because I love Mark Hempel's stuff. I bought it because I was blinded by boobies. Lady Death Medieval Witchblade, a Chaos Top Cow crossover from Image and Top Cow. Basically a one-shot with a whole bunch of variant covers. And I think I had one of the, it's always interesting looking the way the art is because they're back to back with each other. Their chests out, their hands on each other's hip. Gotta love it. I think we talked about this. I had a Champions #1, which was bagged for the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. This was the Mike Elred variant cover. And I had it. I never opened it. I sold it. And I also sold a copy of Beetle Bailey #93. This was 1972 when Carlton had it. Beetle Bailey started way back in 1956. #5 was the first issue because I believe he had 4 color comic appearances. And then they gave him his own self-titled book. And let's see. It remained Dell until, as I'm flipping through just the covers, let's see. Because then it switched to Gold Key as of, it looks like in the 30s sometime. And this would be about 62. Let me take a zoom in on the cover. I can't put, yeah, Gold Key took over. And then Carlton took over. If I keep flipping forward. Is that King? Did King pop in there?
Yes.
Last Gold Key issue was 56, and then King took over at 54, which is 1966. Same numbering, which, it's unheard of nowadays. They stopped at 66, and then Carlton took over at 67 and ran it all the way till issue, hang on. So this is in the 70s. They went all the way up till 132. By that time, you were seeing Carlton, you were seeing more Gold Key, you were seeing Whitman variants. So it's just kind of interesting the way they used to publish the comics. And then, of course, I think there was a volume 2. Excuse me a second while I crank it up. Let's see. It says Dark Horse did a Beetle Bailey comic. No, that must have been a collection. Harvey did a Beetle Bailey volume 2 in 92 to 94. So, and I don't know if those are originals or reprints because I don't have them in my collection.
By the way, does Joe know why did they keep the same numbering when a book would go from company to company and not start over again with the new number one?
I thought that was just the newsstand thing, because they had to keep a place for that. Because like they said, the first four were 4-color comics, and then they must have sold well enough to give Vito Bailey his own series, versus some of the other ones where they just kept reappearing in 4-color as 4-color kept up in the thousands.
But why didn't they start over with the new number one?
That just wasn't done. The higher the number, the better the pedigree.
Right. And number one, well, this book hasn't been tried. We don't know if it'll sell. But if a book had been around for a number of issues, well, it's obviously successful because it's been around for 30 issues, 40 issues, 50 issues, etc. To the point where that's why a lot of companies would switch the name of a book but keep the same numbering, that in the second class.
Yeah.
By the way, I do want to point something out. The post office has been cracking down on stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Under the new leadership. If you are selling comics and sending them through the mail, comic books and magazines do not qualify as media mail.
Yep, which is really weird because I don't think a comic book has been mailed second class since 1990.
Well, that's for subscriptions.
Yeah, no, they don't.
Media mail.
They stopped. I mean, sometime in the 80s and 90s, they started shipping them first class because people would be complaining that they were getting damaged otherwise. And that's where you got that whole weird Marvel subscription fold, which is prevalent in some golden age, or not golden age, but silver age books. They just folded it in half and mailed it. But when it became
why
apparent,
can't you send comics via media mail?
well, it has to do with the second class thing. They don't count it as, they count them as magazine periodicals, not as real media.
The cutoff is the fact that comics have ads in them.
Again, another superfluous.
That's what the post office says.
Yeah, but
because
it's
I just saw somebody who had purchased something off eBay. The person has sent it media mail, and when it arrived, it was classified postage due because they said that it was not. If you go through media mail, it'll even say comics cannot be sent via media mail. So he got his comics from eBay, but he had to pay $18.02 in extra postage because the person who had mailed it sent it via media mail.
Which I would question on that, because if it was a single comic, it still would have been able to ship first class for less than $5. So he got rooked. That was the same thing when I shipped out something, and some Bobo. First time this has happened in the since I've been selling in '98, because I always put things in a cardboard box, fold it over, and then I put it into the a priority mail envelope, so you can go for flat rate. Then I stick it so it's the envelope is stuck, and then I always put an extra tape on it. Well, this Bobo in the post office is like, well, it wasn't sealed properly, so I'm going to charge you an extra $10. And I was kind of like, that's bullshit, because I could have shipped it for first class for $5. So when you're being told this by the post office, I would be very, very skeptical, unless this guy was sending 5 pounds of comics. Yeah, then it probably was $18 to ship it, because it would have gone parcel post instead of that. But yeah, this is just a case where, they're nickel diming you, and they're just not keeping up with the way comics are. They're finding all these little loopholes, and they're like, well, they're not wrong. It's their rules. It's just now they're starting to enforce them. Because then you'd take something like the next book I sold on eBay's Uncle Slam and Fire Dog from Action Planet, which had no ads in it whatsoever because it was during the black and white era, although they might count house ads as ads. This was just 2 issues. Uncle Slam, of course, was when America needed a hero, a warrior, to lift its spirits in time of war. And so, thanks to the efforts of science and a patriotic volunteer, the legendary hero known as Captain or Uncle Slam was born. Unfortunately, Uncle Slam has a couple of flaws, thanks to a sinister bomb attack. First, there's a gaping hole in his head where one of his eyes should be, and second, mentally, he's not quite there. But he's got help in that department from Fire Dog, his robot sidekick. So apparently there was 2 issues from Action Planet, and then Oni had an Uncle Slam Fights Back one-shot in 2008. I never bothered with that, but I did have the other 2 for some reason and ended up selling them at I don't know, I thought it was an okay price. I sold a couple copies of Micronauts First Strike, the retailer incentive, which was signed by Wilsh Portaccio, who did the cover artist. And the guy who bought them, we had a few email exchanges because said these are hard to find, even unsigned. And want to know if I had anything else around this era, and because this was back when they were trying to do the Hasbro universe through IDW, and I don't know where these came from. I must have picked them up at one time thinking, oh yeah, Micronauts, cool, wishing it back from when they were the original Marvel run. Have we ever talked about the Vertigo series Scalped?
Yes.
Okay. I'll just mention I sold
by
one of those.
Jason Aaron, and
Yep.
It's fantastic. It is still in development as a series for one of the streaming services.
Yeah. I've never read it. I will probably go and find the books eventually because it's 60 issues. Let's see, 10 softcover books, and let's see, 5 deluxe hardcovers if you can find them. I sold a copy of one of those What Nexts because some of the Vertigo What Next are actually up there in price, but it was just one of those ways back when DC promoted their stuff that they actually here's your chance to try it before you jumped into it, and if you liked it. So we're checking out. Other than that, like I said, I got a ton of stuff waiting to go on. I have a ton of stuff to go on. I didn't actually put anything on eBay today because, some days I do take a rest and read comics, which I'll talk about when we get to Freaking and Geeking. But for you, and I hope it's my esteemed listeners, I've got a number of people that are sending me a quick note. Hey, would you take, you're asking 20, would you take $12.99? And remember, if you tell me you listen to this here podcast, not only will I probably say yes, or I will insist you take a cheaper price, kind of go a reverse Gomez Adams if you get that reference, but I'll always toss in something, toss in a freebie or 2. I got a boxes of stuff. And if I can give it to you to read just for fun, so be it. KRAYZ on eBay. Come get some.
And now we get to my favorite part of the show.
Oh, are we going geeking again?
No, not where I get in the car and drive to go out to where there are no lights in the sky so I can see the Milky Way, which you can actually see this time of year if you're far enough away from a city.
Do you like
No,
the dark
it's freaking
Milky Way or the
geeking.
milk chocolates? Oh, I'm sorry. Way off.
Joe, what are you freaking on?
Oh, let's see where it went. I got bad news.
Oh, no.
Yep.
Bad
Not
news, everyone.
sad
Bad
news.
news.
It's to be inspected, but I guess we're not in a couple days ago, the Midwest comic book fans, forever known as MCBA to us, posted on their Facebook page that due to the pandemic, they will not be having an MSP SpringCon 2021. Too much of a challenge. Difficulties, both seen and unseen. They probably can't get a commitment from the fairgrounds to do it, which should be interesting because somebody else rented the fairgrounds grandstand. So again, I don't know if that has to do with it, but it was just too much to go on. So they've canceled the Spring Con, but they're announcing they're going to go forward with Fall Con 2021, making it a 2-day event, which will be held in the Education Building of the State Fair on October 9th and 10th. Admission will be $15 for both days. And while COVID-19 will prevent some of their traditional features from occurring, including food shelf donations, the panels, costume contests, they are confident they'll be able to present the best and safest show possible, adhering to all local and state guidelines regarding mask usage, crowd size, any other limitations in place at the time. So very excited to hear about that. I haven't heard from the boys if they want to do the charity booth or not, because I know with the big thing is I haven't collected anything in like a year and a half. So I don't even know if I have anything left. But, you know, the Education Building's smaller venue. And, you know, when I did the charity booth at the in the grandstand, you know, we took up like 5-6 tables and we were filling with stuff. You can see some of the pictures in the past. I mean, as our old friend Nick would say, an embarrassment of riches donated by everybody. So I will try to get a hold of one of the boys and see what they want to plan. You know, if it's a thing of the past, so be it. If not, I'll be begging for stuff from you guys. You know how I am. I'm a beggar. So that was kind of a freaking within a geeking. Other than that, I don't got much going on. How about you, Cory? What you got? What you freaking on?
Well, DC has put out their solicitation list. Joe, do you like the Batman?
I don't mind the character. I haven't read anything.
Do you like it enough to pay $6 an issue?
I don't pay $4
for
an
a
issue.
40-page comic.
So it's probably not going to happen.
This is a complete reversal of what DC used to do. Because I remember back when I worked at Schindler's, you could tell when a book wasn't selling very well at DC, but they wanted to keep it going. They would actually raise the price, which, you know, probably not the best sales tactic in the world, but they would say, look, the book isn't making enough money to meet its budget, but if we raise the price by a quarter or so, it'll make enough money that we could get a few more issues out.
You guys believed it.
Well, and then with the new 52, it was holding the line at $2.99, and they also would keep the higher selling books at a lower cost. Well, now AT&T is in charge, so what's our best-selling book? Batman? How much is it selling? How much are we selling it for? Well, it's $4.99, and then we'll put a special cover on some of them, the cardstock cover, and we'll charge $5.99 for that. Oh no, screw that! $5.99 for all of them. And the story is that DC will be doing that with some of their better-selling books, which to me is suicide. I don't mind paying extra money for a 40-page comic. I actually am buying the Batman anthology book that came out, which had a great tweet from Chip Zdarsky, who's writing the main story. Somebody said, Batman doesn't blah, 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 blah. And Zdarsky wrote back and said, you know what? I'm the one writing this Batman story. He will wear a pink tutu and dance for 40 pages if I tell him to.
Yeah, he will do what I tell him to.
But, $6 a book. I will be amazed if when it finally starts showing up in shops and as people realize the new cost, if there's not a revolt, because people are still mad about $3.99, and that's been in place now for almost a decade.
I'm mad since 35 cents. Hey, can I horn in on you for a sec?
Sure.
This kind of ties to a freaking I didn't really want to mention, but I will kind of do it. A lot of times, as I'm mostly Facebook, you're cruising through, you'll see somebody say, well, what if like the Borg from Star Trek fought the shadows from Babylon 5? What would happen? And lately there's been a bunch of killjoys popping up. or different franchises, it'll never happen. And to me, I'm kind of like, dude, you're missing the frickin' point. Obviously, we enjoy the franchises, and the only reason we're not seeing this happen is because of short-minded myopicness of lawyers and executives. Because, boy, you put a Star Trek Babylon 5 mashup together, just take my money. You wanna really make excitement, and Marvel DC, I'm looking at both of you. Where the hell's our crossovers? It probably will never happen again. But that to me is, how did they say it in wrestling? Money on the table. So if that's the best argument you can have, well, they're not going to do it because they're different franchises. Would you just shut up and stop? Don't piss on other people's fun, okay? That's all I got to rant about. I could go on for a while, but I just my jaw just fell because, again, Marvel Spotlight #9 from 1980, Captain Universe, Steve Ditko, $125.
I have all those because
Why did I sell anything? Again, I'm just looking.
I have all those because one reason.
You don't sell nothing.
Steve Ditko.
Well, of course.
When Steve Ditko came back to Marvel, I picked up everything he did. And most of the people in high school with, we would trade comics. Oh, they couldn't wait to get rid of the Ditko issues. Couldn't wait to get the Ditko and the Kirby. They couldn't wait to get rid of them. Me, I was all over those. Oh yeah.
Did he write those? Or did he
two for one? No, I believe Bill Mantlo wrote those.
Okay, yeah, because to me the stories were unremarkable. But again, I was kind of like we were talking about earlier. This was like a little bit of the Marvel Universe that I felt like I was in on because I knew where Captain Universe came from, or so I thought. I learned a lot more today. So it was kind of like, oh, this is cool. He could pop up. And then, of course, I think he popped up in Spider-Man during the what was the crossover where all the
Cosmic Spider-Man.
No, they all the heroes, the villains swapped and fought somebody else's heroes.
Oh, Acts of Vengeance.
Yes, thank you. That's what I was thinking. But that happened there too. So, anyways, it was just fun.
By the way, there is another story by Ditko in Marvel Spotlight called Dragon Lord. Written by Marv Wolfman, drawn by Steve Ditko. Does Joe know they never did a Dragon Lord story before or after? What was the Dragon Lord story?
I don't recall reading it, to tell you the truth.
You may want to find it. It is an inventory story that they did for Godzilla. And after they lost the rights to Godzilla, they had Ditko redraw parts of it. But it is a fill-in Godzilla story that never got printed.
Let's see. Collectibles, comics. Did you mean Dragon Zord? No, I didn't.
No, Dragon Lord. It was Marvel Spotlight #5.
Oh, I do remember that one. I don't have it, but I do remember it.
Yep, that was a Godzilla story.
Oh, man, that's almost worth digging up to reread it.
The other thing I am freaking on, Joe, do you remember the big J.J. Abrams Spider-Man story that they were going to push?
It's funny you mentioned that because as I was trying to clean up my vast accumulation of more stuff, I've discovered, issue 5 did ship. I have no idea where 1 through 4 is, but I put it, now in a box alphabetical. So hopefully they'll cough up someday and I can read it and we can talk about it. How about you?
I've read all 5 issues. First off, it was supposed to be a Spider-Man story by J.J. Abrams, and we find out that, no, it was J.J. Abrams and his kid did most of the writing. 2, it wasn't about Peter Parker. It was set in an alternate future where Mary Jane had been killed, and Peter Parker had given up being Spider-Man, and most of the heroes were gone.
This wasn't the one where she died because of the irradiated, what?
No.
No? Oh, good. Thank God. That was such a
it was one of Spider-Man's villains, and he was so guilty that he left his son in the care of Aunt May and became a war correspondent. So all 5 issues, I have read all 5 issues. And here's the thing. at some point, editorial should have stepped in and said, this isn't very good. Do you think you could make your lead character at least a little likable? Do you think that you could treat Peter Parker a little better? Do you think that this story could make a little more sense? And could you really tone down the dialogue? Because the dialogue is just filled with smarm. This was something Marvel was pushing really hard, and I would not be shocked if it kind of vanishes into the ether, kind of like that Hulk Wolverine story that Damon Lindelof did for the Ultimate line, where the first 2 issues came out, and then the other 4 issues came out a few years later, where, oh, it's going to be a big deal. It's written by Damon Lindelof, the creator of Lost. And then it just kind of, yeah, it happened. Okay, it's done. This felt the same way. I don't mind if they bring in people from outside comics to write comics. I really don't. I think it's a good idea. I think there are a lot of people who can bring different voices, but editors have to work with them because certain choices made in movies and TV shows don't work in comics. And one of those is smarmy dialogue. Because if an actor's got a lot of charisma, he can pull that off and still be likable. But in a comic, you're just dealing with words on a page. It's kind of like how sarcasm doesn't work on the internet. And you have to put an emoticon or something there to let people know that it's sarcasm, or people will take it seriously and go, wow, you're really being a dick. And when I got done with this, Spider-Man's kid is a dick. I just didn't care for it. And it was very clear that editorial just let them do whatever they wanted. Sarah Pichelli's art is beautiful, by the way. I'm very excited to see whatever she'll be doing next. She did the long run on Ultimate Spider-Man after Mark Bagley left. She took over Ultimate Spider-Man with Bendis, and I loved her stuff. And her art was so good on this, but the story just didn't work for me. So rather than continue to complain, Joe, what are you geeking on?
Oh, well, let's see. I just saw the Marvel Spotlight because it's an all-new classic by Marv Wolfman and Steve Ditko.
Yep.
So I'll have to look for that. It's not terribly expensive, well, depending on the condition.
And when you read it, you'll go, this is... it's weird. It's a weird story, but you can see how it could have been a Godzilla story.
Yeah. Does Strode know why I wince every time I hear a Godzilla reference while I'm watching my reruns of MASH every night?
Because Godzilla did not... Their first Godzilla movie was in 1954, which was after the Korean War. And
yeah. Even my wife is catching on that. So she's like, wait a minute. Didn't he just say Godzilla? There was no Godzilla.
Yep.
My favorite was there was another big debate because there's a picture of Radar holding Avengers comic book while he's sleeping, and people went nuts. And I'm like, why? I mean, there was a blooper where Nurse Kelly was reading a paperback of Jaws, so you just got to keep your eyes open and see.
You know what's weird about that too? That Avengers comic was from the 60s.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a current Avengers comic. No, it was one from
it must have just
8 or 9
ran
years
out
before.
Somewhere. You know what's weird about that Godzilla Marvel Spotlight story? Because Doug Mensch was writing Godzilla when it ended. How did Marv Wolfman get a hold of it?
What it was, when Marv Wolfman was editor-in-chief at Marvel, he instituted what was known as Mighty Marvel Villain Comics. And he wasn't editor-in-chief very long, but he started the idea, and it was continued under Archie Goodwin and then Shooter until, the mid-'80s, where they said every book in the line has to have at least one fill-in issue ready to go. So if somebody misses the deadline, it can be slotted right in. And most of the time you can tell, because the creative team is different, But you can also tell because most of the time they were written by Bill Mantlo, because it was early in his career, and he would just grab whatever assignment was available. Tony Isabella and Don Heck did one, although I think, if I remember right, it's in the middle of that George Perez story with Steve Englehart leading up to issue 150, and it's the two-part Assassin story, and I believe they were actually working on that for an Giant Size Avengers, and then when Giant Size Avengers went away, they kind of put it in, okay, we could slot this in if Englehart continues to miss his deadlines, which he always did. They had either one or two for Kill Raven. And Don McGregor's still pissed about those because he says he got the stuff in on time, but the editor at the time wanted the book to fail.
Oh, brilliant.
Was that true? We don't know.
I don't know.
We'll never know. But then there was, they had all this stuff sitting in inventory. And after a while, some of it got used in Marvel Fanfare, but the stuff that wasn't good enough for Marvel Fanfare ended up in a series that was in the early 90s called Marvel Superheroes, which was that square-bound 64-page series that had the first Squirrel Girl story. I also had the last two issues of Ms. Marvel. Ms. Marvel was canceled, but there were two issues already mostly done. And you can tell because if you read Ms. Marvel, it's let's see, Claremont, and I think it's Mike Vosberg. And when it's in Marvel Superheroes, it is the first appearance of Rogue, even though her first appearance was in Avengers 10. Rogue was the villain in in Ms. Marvel 24 and 25. So when they were printed in Marvel Superheroes, it's like, well, these are the real first ones. They just were never printed until now. But you can also see that they were done in pencil form only because whoever inked it just shit the bed on those inks. Marvel would not have published those looking the way they did in Marvel Superheroes. It was very much okay, these pencils are sitting in inventory. Get somebody around the office to ink them. We're going to print all this inventory stuff up. DC has a digital series now where they are printing stuff that was created and sitting in drawers. It's hosted by Ambush Bug, and it's called Let Them Live.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Unpublished Tales from the DC Vault, and it's basically every week they're clearing out the inventory, and it's Ambush Bug as a janitor running across these stories.
Why not? Have some fun with it.
And I'm stepping all over your geeking.
No, that's okay. I stepped over your freaking. But we got some good information. For example, we finally got an answer to a question we've been asking nonstop. Who exactly won the Toys R Us Award Marvelous Shopping Spree that was blazoned upon all those comics in, was it the 80s, right? Late 90s, early 80s? I don't remember.
Late 70s.
Oh my gosh, it's even earlier because it were two months they did that. This comic could be worth $3,000, or this comic could win a Toys R Us shopping spree. I had no idea what Toys R Us was because at the time all we had was Children's Palace up here. But apparently somebody found an article, and it's credited to PlaidStallions.com. Out of Sacramento, California, 13-year-old Californian Sean McDonald finished his 3-minute shopping spree at a Toys R Us after being named as the grand prize winner in the national sweepstakes sponsored by Marvel. The youngster grabbed merchandise valued at $3,065, and the Amazing Spider-Man made a special trip to the store on Greenback Lane to help celebrate the spree. And apparently he grabbed a lot of microscopes, or telescopes. So, again, finally an answer to a question nobody seemed to know the answer to. So that was kind of a neat bit of trivia. It
reminds me of the, remember when Superman 2, DC had the big, win the sweepstakes and be in Superman 2. And it took forever, but they finally found that The two kids were there. They, got some autographs and stuff, and they found them in the movie in a crowd scene.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm being distracted here. Where were we? Oh, I've talked a lot about Kickstarter, and Todd McFarlane did a Kickstarter to do an updated version of the original Spawn figure from 1995. I have it somewhere in my vast accumulation of crap. I haven't even touched the toys, and I opened all my crap, so putting it all together will be nuts. But he raised over $3 million, and I finally got it in the mail. And oh my God, it came in 2 boxes with the McFarlane seal on the outside. And when I opened it, it was so beautiful. I was just utterly impressed. I just went with the classic Spawn. They had the classic Spawn costume and the mask. I mean, he had the modern Spawn, and then there was an artist proof. You could get it autographed. You could do one with all 3. And, part of me is like, maybe I should have gone a little higher, but I'm really, really happy with what I bought. And I hope Todd decides to go this route again, because there's people who care. There's people who want to do it. And I'm pretty sure, he's I don't even know what Todd's doing with Todd Toys. It's hard to tell. He's got the Batman. He's got the Batman Superman line now. So he's doing that stuff. I see that pop up at Target. So it's not like he's losing money, but this is a way for him. I can't envision any Target or Walmart wanting a Spawn figure, but this is a cool way to get a hold of a really, really cool Spawn figure. I haven't seen any on the eBays, and just reading the communities, the comments, I know there's a real backlash brewing because people have been waiting for so long for this thing, and he's putting them out as fast as he can. And there's people like, hey, I'm like in the low thousands for supporting this, because he had over 23,000 people back it, and they haven't even gotten a shipping number yet. And of course the thing with toys are they come overseas, they come in waves. They could be sitting at docks, they could be sitting at the post office. I think mine came by FedEx. Either way, if you're gonna order, if you did order it, just wait. It's good, you'll get it, and it'll be worth the while. So I was pretty pleased with that. I mentioned I did take a run to the source. I also took a run to, I guess it's Main Drag Vintage and Collectibles. Used to be called Schleck and Company Antiques in North St. Paul on 2533 7th Avenue East. One of the guys from the con has set up comic books in the corner. He's doing it with a partner. Some really, really cool stuff. I go there a lot of times because that's where I go buy some of my Hot Wheels. I mean, the guy who does the Hot Wheels there, he usually has like a garage con where he blows out all his extra stuff, but obviously with COVID, he didn't do it this year. So I stop in, I look at all the Tonkas. Believe me, I got a lot of Tonkas sitting in my garage as well. It's just fun to look. I actually thought of doing a booth there, but I'm doing so much with the eBays at home. And so if you're looking for comics, check it out. It might be worth your while. I did stop over to the source, and I picked up a number of stuff. A few of it I'll share with you. I talked a while back about Oni Press's The Vein, which was the story about the vampires that end up working for the various government organizations. And I guess the last 2 issues came out, 4 and 5. So the series is out. I imagine the graphic novel's on its way. Local creator in Minnesota did it, so it was a fun series we're picking up. Now, Shaman's Tears came out when? That was what? In the 80s? No, 90s.
No, that was 90s because that was Image.
Image. I never had issue 12. Go figure. I figured I'd pull the run out, read it, decide if I was going to eBay it or not. Did not have an issue 12. Thank God the source did. Now I can read the dumb series. Talking about things where you suddenly get the urge to read it. I had a copy. I have it. It's on eBay now. But it was from Discount Comic Book Service, Masks #1. This was the series that, hang on a second while I fire it up off the old Atomic Avenue. This was a series from Dynamite that Alex Ross was behind. And it's Masks plural. And what it was is he took some Golden Age heroes. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. It was Mask. No, not the Mark. Come on, stop auto-correcting me. It's bad enough I can't spell. I don't need these guys to change it for me. So anyways, Masks and Masks 2. And basically what he did, took the Shadow, Green Hornet, the Spider, and put them together in a story. And I read that first issue, the comic shop. It was really, really good. And I mean, Alex Ross was doing the art. The story is Chris Robertson. And of course, I don't have the rest of them. So I went to the source, and I wasn't able to find the trade paperbacks. I wasn't able to find the enough of the original series, 7 issues in the first one. And then the second series, they brought a bunch more in. But one of the characters that struck my was someone called Masquerade. And you're looking at her. She's got a red outfit. She's showing a leg. She's got 2 pistols in her hands. And Alex Ross drew the cover. And I'm like, good grief, this is gorgeous. And I was able to get all 4 issues. So I'll read that. And part of Masquerade is she doesn't quite know who she is. Hence the name Masquerade. And I imagine over time I'll find Masks 1 and 2 and read more about it. And of course, anything extra I'll put on the eBays. I did pick up a book called Prepare to Die, a novel of superheroes, sex, and secret origins by Paul Tobin. It was only $4, and it's a prose book. So it was kind of fun to read. Let's see what other fun stuff going on here. So yeah, I took a quick run to the source. I did actually read some comics, and I don't know. I guess I'll talk about them because I don't know when we're going to have a review episode next. But I did read the DC #0 Infinite Frontier. This is the one that quite possibly may be the last DC comic I may ever buy or read. Part of me gets excited though, because I mean, if you've read it, there's a real good ending to it. And I guess in July 2020 is Infinite Frontier #1, so I probably might stick around and pick that up. But it did intrigue me enough to go look at some of the future states, and the source had them all on the shelf. I did not pick up any future states. I tried to get excited. I mean, Bendis did the Legion of Superheroes, and I looked at the Supergirl. I might go back for those. I looked at the Green Lantern. No,
did you see who's writing Superwoman?
I didn't.
Tom King.
Maybe. That might catch my attention. Unless they decide right before the end of the story arc to kick him off and whatever. So yeah, I mean, I am buying Bendis's Justice League. I'm a Bendis fan. I'll see what he does with that. But yeah, as exciting as Infinite Frontier was, the future shock wasn't that great. So I may just have to wait till I think what did you read, Cory? You read Robin or Superman?
I've read a few, and I will be talking about them in my geeking.
Okay, so I may end up going back to source tomorrow and picking them up, although it's supposed to be raining the rest of the week, and rains and comics don't go together. From Aftershock #1, Nuclear Family. I mention this because, having studied Cold War in college, this is kind of up my alley, where a guy goes down into his basement and he comes up after nuclear war, and he's surrounded by soldiers. Not another step, commie. And that was just issue 1. So I'm real curious. This is, I don't know how you say, oh yeah, we're talking about a nuke war, and I'm going to talk about how fun it was. But I'm intrigued. The art was really good. The writing was compelling, and I'm real curious to see where they go with this series. I got the first 2 series of the Eternals. You talked about this before, didn't you, Cory?
Yeah.
And I'm putting my plus up on this too. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. They kind of acknowledge what happened before, and they give a compelling reason why the Eternals are back, especially after they seemingly died. And I'm real curious where Gilden and Rybeck and Wilson are going to go with this, because they obviously ain't going to ignore anything. But
Oh, and Ryback's art is so good.
oh, it's great. And I mean, I'm just intrigued by this, and even to the point where I I don't recall things a lot. Like I said, I read Dragon Lord, but I don't recall reading it, even though I did at one time. And this, I remember reading the story where, again, this isn't really a spoiler, but what the heck, I talk that way. Where Sprite got tired of being a kid and killed everybody. It's like, oh yeah, she did do that, didn't she? So it was just pick it up 1 and 2, and I saw 3 on the shelf. I read another one from Image, Post Americana, again, an apocalyptic type scenario where apparently there are different people out there feuding, and I'm just reading along with this, trying to figure out what's going on, and it really didn't catch me until the last couple pages, I should say. Let's see. So good story, good art. That's just really all I asked for. And this was a lot of fun. They did a reprint of Black Knight #1, the original Atlas book from, when the hell did this come out? It was a while back. Was this before Marvel started or after? Yeah, 1955, I think. I can't read that small. I'm getting old enough. I need readers.
Yeah, Black Knight was after the Code, but still during Atlas.
And it was a lot of fun. I mean, they reprinted all. It's fun to look at the ads. The story is compelling. The setup is kind of weird because as the Black Knight, they give the origin and that he's got a secret identity, and of course if he ever reveals it, that kind of kills the story. And I haven't looked, and I probably will while Cory's geeking, just to see how many Black Knight. Well, what the heck, I got Atomic Avenue right here.
I think there were 5 issues.
Only 5?
Yeah.
And I wonder if they ever Black Knight Atlas, yeah, 5, and then boy, okay, you get another dime. And let's see,
because in the omnibus, they combine that with the Yellow Claw.
And then the other Black Knight is from 2016, which I don't know if it has anything to do with it. And I don't recall when they reintroduced the Black Knight, was it the same character or?
No, remember it was Dane Whitman.
Aha. Now, did you read these? Did they ever resolve the secret identity?
Oh, heavens, no.
Okay. So there you go, Marvel. You got some stories you can tell. Cory and I will buy it. That's pretty much it. Other than I've been hearing from some fans. It's weird. I've been hearing from like the professional writers in the industries. They really don't like the Snyder cut of Justice League. And then I've heard from some geeks, meaning people like Cory and I, who like it. And when people are bitching about its length, and I'm kind of like, you're at home. You can pause it any damn time you want. Or if you fall asleep during it, because I guess the beginning of it's kind of slow. I heard that during WandaVision too. You can rewind it and figure out what's going on. So I may try it. I'm in no hurry. I know I've got a deadline because isn't Godzilla King Kong coming out soon?
Godzilla comes out on the 31st.
Yeah, so I got to hurry up on that one. And also I don't know if they're doing the 28 days thing with the Snyder cut, where if after 28
that I don't know. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, but I'm going to give it a shot. And like I said, if I can get it all done, great. If not, well, whatever. I'm at home. I'm not in a theater. I don't have to worry about, jumping up or not drinking my huge diet soda 2 hours before I start the movie. This isn't Avengers Endgame, That's pretty much it for me. Cory, what you geeking on?
First thing I'm geeking on, Don McGregor has announced that he will be doing another Zorro series, this time for American Mythology, which currently has the license for Zorro. Don McGregor did the Zorro series at Topps, which first off gave us some incredible artists. That was, I think, Mike Mayhew's first major comic book. But it also gave us the character Lady Rawhide. And no word yet on if he will be bringing back Lady Rawhide. But Don McGregor on Zorro makes me happy. It's I knew nothing about Zorro before Don McGregor did it for Topps, and Topps did it because, hey, there's a Zorro movie coming out, and the character's public domain. So, I have been reading through some of the new DC stuff. And I'm only going to point out the books that I really liked. Justice League is by Brian Michael Bendis. I can't remember the artist's name, but the art was really good. And here's the thing. Yeah, everything I see about the Justice League movie, it's a lot like Zack Snyder's other movies in that, you know how Rob Liefeld doesn't like to draw feet?
Yeah.
Zack Snyder doesn't like color. Everything is black and white and gray and dark and dingy, and there are no lights anywhere, and everybody talks like this, and everybody swears a lot. Bendis' Justice League are DC's Big Seven. It's drawn bright and big and bold, and they're fighting supervillains, and it's not part of some big crossover, and it's not night all the time. And I absolutely loved it, and it's the first time in ages I've been able to read a Justice League comic without going, well, what does this tie into? I'm missing something because I didn't read this, and I don't know what's going on. This, nope, it's Superman, Batman. Yeah, all the big characters, they take care of the big things that happen. The art reminded me a lot of that widescreen movement that happened at the end of the 90s, where it's, you know what, make this stuff look big, make it look impressive, not with a lot of cross-hatching, but make it feel like a movie popping off the page. And the other thing was, the backup is Justice League Dark, which is the exact opposite. I like Ram V's work over on Catwoman, but on Justice League Dark, very overwritten, very overwrought. Everything was dark. Everything is gloomy. You have to know what's happened to this version of John Constantine in the DC universe before a lot of this makes sense. And about halfway through, I found out that I was kind of pushing myself to finish the story rather than the first half, which was Bendis, where I couldn't turn the pages fast enough. So in a way, it's almost like the two extremes of DC. But man, did I love reading a Justice League comic that felt like a big old fun superhero book. And what is wrong with some big old fun superhero books? Not everything has to be dark and gloomy and depressing and tied into the end of the universe.
So which ones, again, do a quick rundown again. Which ones have you read that you like?
Okay, I like Justice League. I like Superman. I like a Superman.
I like a Superman.
And the other one that I read that I absolutely adored was Nightwing. Nightwing was the best Nightwing story I have read in decades. I thought that when they did the kind of hit the reset button on the DC Universe, Alfred would come back. Nope, Alfred is not back. And they deal with the ramifications of that in Nightwing better than they've dealt with it in any of the other DC books. Just an excellent, excellent comic. First time I've really been excited to read a Nightwing book. Because for a long time, Nightwing's been, well, under Dan DiDio, it was always rumored that he hated the character and wanted to get rid of it whenever there was a crossover. And you could tell because they would do, okay, well, he's Nightwing, but he doesn't remember he's Nightwing. He's Nightwing, but now he's a spy. He's Nightwing, but now he's this. Nope. This is the character this is Robin, grown up, raised by Batman, but connected with him, but he's his own man. Just such a good book. Other books I read Crime Syndicate #1, which I enjoyed, but it's a miniseries, so I'm not buying it as regular comics. I'm going to buy it as a trade. Man-Bat is not part of this kind of reboot, reset, whatever they're calling it. But it's an okay story. I do like the fact that they touch on the fact that every time he turns into Man-Bat and gets cured, he says, "Oh, I'll never do that again." And then he does. So what they've said is he's addicted to the serum. So he goes through it the way an addict does. When an addict hits rock bottom, they go, "Oh, I will never drink again." And then their life starts getting better, and they go, "Well, it won't hurt if I drink a little. It won't hurt if I, have some social drinks. It won't hurt." And then you get back in that cycle. Somebody finally decided, hey, that's the essence of the character. Let's do that. Suicide Squad #1 did not make any impression on me at all. I read it and was just kind of, okay. The Swamp Thing was good but overwritten. And I think that is all I have had time to read. Oh, Catwoman. Catwoman was so much fun. She's having to protect the Riddler from being killed by the mob. And it's fun. It's just fun. So that one I enjoyed a lot too. And those are the only ones out of the DC kind of reboots that I've read so far. So big thumbs up on Superman, big thumbs up on Nightwing and Justice League. Those are ones that Cory says check them out. Believe it or not, kids, we were able to get an hour and a half out of nothing.
I know. Well, don't tell them that. They might expect that every week.
I don't know. We're able to get an hour and a half out of nothing.
Yeah,
pretty easy.
Pretty much. You should have. When Cory and I had a long discussion of our prostate health before we started recording.
We did?
I told you it was a long one.
I was sleeping through that. Although my sister came from the doctor today and found out that we heretically have larger than normal uvulas.
I thought there was something odd about you, but now I know what it is.
And for all the jokes and everything, that's what causes a lot of sleep apnea in the family. But all I could think of was that Saturday Night Live bit from the first season, the National Uvula Society, where they treated the word uvula, as if it was something dirty.
Yeah.
And it also has one of my favorite non-jokes ever. It's the public service announcement where Gilda Radner is, "But what if I don't know about my uvula? You should talk to your doctor." Chevy Chase comes in. "Hi, I'm the doctor." So we will do the knock-knock joke from that bit. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Babs' uvula.
Says uvula who?
I don't know, Babs, but I do know this. If you don't get your uvula checked out, you could be in serious trouble.
I can't even do it.
I just thought, and as we say every week, the uvula we like the least, we still like better than the uvula that you like the most. Joe?
The past, the present, and the future walk into a bar. It was tense. I thank Mosaic Chong for that dad joke. If you have a dad joke, send them in, and I will put them on this show. Cory?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't. I'm sorry, Mosaic. I guess I didn't get a groan from Cory. You're going to have to send me a few more. I'll try them next week. Hit my music.